You know Noah as the one man God could still trust. One righteous human in a drowning world who built a boat and carried life across the water. But open the book the church left out, and the first thing that happens to Noah is this. His own father takes one look at the newborn in the midwife's arms and runs. Not with joy, with fear. Because the old man is certain the child is not his. He believes he is looking at the son of an angel. And the strangest thing is not that he thought it. The strangest thing is who he ran to for an answer, and what that answer turned out to be. Because it quietly rewrites who Noah was, and what the flood was actually for. I'll be honest with you. I sat on this episode longer than any other I've made. Not because I doubted the text. The text is one of the best attested things we will ever look at together. I held it back because once you see what these pages do to the story of Noah, you cannot unsee it, and I wanted to be sure I was ready to hand that to you. So here it is. This story does not reach us down a single thread that could have frayed on the way. It reaches us down two, written by people who never met. The first thread is the Book of Enoch, the same book we have been reading in its final chapters, the 106th and the 107th, where it turns away from angels and giants to tell the birth of one baby. The second thread is a different scroll entirely, the Genesis Apocryphon, found in the very first cave at Qumran in 1947, written in Aramaic, older than the Gospels. Two documents, two languages, two authors who never spoke, telling the same night in the same house. The night Noah was born, and his father was afraid of him. When two witnesses who never met agree on a detail as strange as this one, the detail earns a second look. And here is the thing I will ask you to hold on to. The words this text uses to prove the baby is human, the very phrases the family clings to as evidence, are, almost word for word, the words another book of the Bible uses for a being that is not human at all. I won't tell you which book yet, but when we reach it, you will see that the proof and the fear were made of the same sentence. To feel why a father would look at his own son and see a monster, you have to remember where we are standing in the story. In the first 2 chapters of this series, 200 watchers came down onto a mountain, took human wives, and fathered the Nephilim, the giants. And their spirits, by the same book, still move across the earth. All of that happened in the generations just before Noah. So picture the world the man Lamech lived in. Everyone knew the stories. Everyone had heard that the sons of heaven had crossed into human beds and left something wrong behind. And to Lamech, this was not a fairy tale. It was recent history, a thing his grandparents' generation claimed to have lived through. And the giants it had produced were, by the older chapters of this very book, still walking the hills, still remembered, still feared. When a man from that world saw something inhuman in his own house, he was not being superstitious. He was doing the terrible arithmetic his century had taught him. And into that world, into that fear, a child is born who does not look like a child. Here is how the Book of Enoch describes the newborn, and it is not written like the description of a baby. His body, it says, was white as snow and red as the rose, the hair of his head white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when the infant opened those eyes, the whole house lit up as though the sun had risen indoors. The women who delivered him drew back. A newborn is a small, wrinkled, half-blind thing. What the midwives were holding, by this text, was closer to a lamp than to a child, already pale, already old, already shining. Read the description slowly, because the writer chose every word to unsettle you. Snow, wool, the rose, the sun. Those are not the colors of flesh. They are the colors a prophet reaches for when he is trying to describe something he saw in heaven and has no earthly word to hold it. A midwife braces for blood and heat and a cry. This mother's child came out the color of a vision, and in a low, dark room lit by one lamp, the light did not come from the lamp. The house went bright. His father was named Lamech, and Lamech does not reach for his son. He turns and goes. The text says he was frightened, straight to his own father, Methuselah, and says almost these words, "I have begotten a strange son. He is not like a man, but like the children of the angels of heaven." Sit for a moment with what a father is saying there. He is not saying the baby is sick, or wrong, or cursed. He is saying the baby belongs to them, to the watchers. And the thing Lamech is most afraid of losing is the one thing he believed was still his own: his blood, his line, his marriage bed. If the fallen could reach even in there, into his house, into his wife, into the face of his own son, then there was no fence left anywhere that the fall had not already crossed. Every parent who has looked down at a newborn and felt, under the love, one cold flicker of, "Who exactly are you?" Lamech felt that flicker, and in his world it had a name. Here, the second scroll adds a scene the Book of Enoch leaves in shadow. In the Genesis Apocryphon, Lamech goes to his wife, and we are given her name, which the Bible never records, Bitenosh, and he asks her the question a man in that world most dreads to ask. He asks whether the child is his at all, or whether one of the watchers had come to her. And Bitenosh answers him. Her reply is the longest speech any woman is given in the entire library of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Hundreds of texts, and the fullest voice a woman is allowed belongs to a wife defending her son's humanity. She swears to him, by the Most High, by the great Lord, that the seed is his, and no strangers, no watchers, no son of heavens. She makes him remember their own night together, the specific truth of it, the thing only the two of them could know, and she asks him to remember it with her. This is not a scene about theology. It is a marriage bending, almost breaking, under the weight of a rumor that had come down off a mountain a few generations before, and poisoned the way a husband could look at his own wife. And that is the quiet horror the watchers left behind, long after they were bound. They did not only father giants, they fathered suspicion. They made it so that a good man could hold his own son and not be sure, and could look at the woman he loved and hear, under her voice, a question that would not leave. The fence they broke was not only around the world, it was around the marriage bed, and it did not go back up. We are close now to those two matching sentences. But Lamech does not rest on his wife's oath, not because he believes she lied, but because he can no longer tell what is possible and what is not. So he sends for the one person alive who would know for certain. Lamech cannot settle this himself, and neither can Methuselah. So Methuselah sets out on a journey. In the Genesis Apocryphon, he travels to the ends of the earth, to a place the scroll names Parvaim, to find Enoch. The same Enoch from the first episode, the man who did not die, who was taken up alive and now walks at the edge of the world carrying the knowledge of heaven. Picture it, an old man crossing the whole earth to ask his own father a single question about a baby. Is my grandson human, or is he one of them? And Enoch answers. His answer is the hinge the whole story turns on. The child, he says, is truly Lamech's, not a watcher's. The seed is human, the line is clean. But, and this is where the relief cools into something else, the child is not ordinary, and the strangeness his father saw is real. He was born pale and shining for a reason. A judgment is coming, Enoch says, that will wash the whole earth clean with water, and this boy is the one seed that must be carried through it. Call him Noah, Enoch tells them. The name means rest or comfort, for he will be the remnant, the thread that does not snap. The glow the father had feared as the mark of corruption is by this book the exact opposite. It is the mark of election, the sign on the one clean line that heaven has chosen to carry the human race across the flood. And here the hidden book reaches out and touches the Bible you already own. Turn to Genesis, the 5th chapter, and you will find the same naming stripped of all its strangeness. And he called his name Noah, saying, "This one shall comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands." One short verse, calm and plain, that you have read past 100 times. Behind it, by the removed pages, stands a whole night of terror, a shining infant, a father's flight, a wife's oath, an old man's journey to the ends of the earth. Genesis kept the name and the comfort. It let the fear fall away. The Book of Enoch is the fear that Genesis left out. I read Enoch's answer 3 or 4 times before it truly landed on me. Because it does not simply say, "Don't worry, he's ordinary." It says the opposite. It says, "He is human," and that is precisely why he shines. He is the last clean thing left, and the light is what being the last clean thing looks like. If you have stayed with me this far, this is the part I most wanted you to hear. So hold the next 2 sentences side by side, because they should not match, and they do. And now the promise I made you at the beginning. Hold the words the family used for the baby: his body white as snow, his hair white as wool, his eyes like the rays of the sun, his face filling the whole house with light. Now open the book of Daniel, the 10th chapter. There the prophet Daniel stands on the bank of a great river, and a being appears to him, a body like beryl, a face like the appearance of lightning, eyes like torches of fire, arms and feet like burnished bronze, and a voice like the sound of a multitude. Daniel falls on his face, the men with him flee. Now open the Gospels, on a high mountain where a man's face shines like the sun, and his clothing turns white as the light, and the ones who see it fall down in fear. Line them up: the body of light, the hair of wool, the eyes of fire, the face like the sun. The exact vocabulary this hidden text uses to prove that baby Noah is nothing but human is the vocabulary that Scripture reserves everywhere else for angels, for the transfigured, for the glory of God itself. The proof and the fear are cut from one cloth. Noah is cleared of being something more than human in the very words that describe something more than human, as if the writer is quietly telling you that the line between the chosen and the corrupted was, from the very beginning, thin as a hair, and that heaven's light and heaven's trespass can look, to a frightened father in a dark room, exactly alike. And the reason a birth story this old and this well attested was pushed quietly out of the Bible was lying right there in that overlap. Anyone copying the page could have seen it. For a very long time, no one wanted to. So why was it left out? Here, as always, I owe you honesty, because this is exactly where other channels reach for a villain. There was no bonfire and no council that gathered to bury Noah's secret. There were the same slow human reasons, and one that belongs to Noah alone. The first is simple mechanics. There was once a separate book, which scholars call the Book of Noah, that told his birth and his hidden knowledge. It was never gathered into one safe cover. Pieces of it were sewn into the end of Enoch. Other pieces turn up among the Qumran scrolls, in the very cave fragments where the Genesis Apocryphon was found. A book that lives only as loose pages inside other books does not need to be banned. It only needs a few generations of scribes who decide it is not worth the candle and the months to copy, and then it is gone on its own, without anyone ever deciding to destroy it. The second reason is quieter and sharper. This story is dangerous to a certain kind of Bible. It admits out loud that even the hero of the flood had to be cleared of being a Nephilim, that the corruption of the watchers had spread so far into the world that people feared it in every strange child, including the one God had chosen. A canon being assembled to teach that the sons of God in Genesis were only ordinary men could not comfortably keep a birth story whose entire drama depends on the sons of God being real and dangerous and possibly inside your own home. I'll tell you where I land, and I'll tell you plainly that it is where I land, not where the evidence drags everyone. I think this little story was too honest about fear to survive inside a book that wanted the flood to be simple. But one church never let it go. The Ethiopian Bible still carries these chapters and still reads in the open about the night a father was afraid of his own newborn son. So the circle closes, and not gently. We were taught that Noah was chosen because he was good, the one righteous man in a rotten world. The pages the church set aside tell something stranger and sadder. They say Noah was chosen because, in a world where the blood of heaven had leaked into nearly everything, he was the last child anyone could still prove was only human. His goodness is not the point of his birth. His humanity is, and even that had to be defended under oath. And notice who keeps standing at the center of all of it. Every time the story breaks open, when the watchers fall, when the verdict comes down, when a father is terrified of his own son, they send for the same man, Enoch, the one who went up and came back not entirely like the rest of us. This whole time we have been watching him from below, from the ground, from the human side of the story. In the next episode, we finally follow him up into the 7 heavens of the second book of Enoch to find out what really happened to a human being who walked into the throne room of God and did not come back down human. That is the next page they removed.